Hey, it's Kelly. Welcome back to my channel where we talk all about gentle skincare, sometimes self-care, and today we're talking this or that skincare. Today I'm going to be comparing the Mary & May Hyaluronic Serum versus the ordinary Hyaluronic plus B5 serum. And this is the new formulation of the ordinary hyaluronic acid that was recently reformulated. So if you wanted to learn about this reformulation and see it go up against a very popular K-beauty hyaluronic acid, give the video a big thumbs up and we're going to decide which one of these products, if any, is best for you. So first, let's look at the ordinary hyaluronic acid 2% plus B5 serum. Now, as I mentioned, this is the recently reformulated version that we're talking about. It contains 3 different types of hyaluronic acid at different molecular weights, where the original version actually only contained 2 types of hyaluronic acid. I do quickly want to point out that the marketing says that there's 5 different types of hyaluronic acid in this new formulation, but I literally can only find 3 listed on the ingredients list. So, I'm not perfect. I do make mistakes. If you know something about the missing other 2 hyaluronic acid forms, let us know in the comments, right? But I'm just not seeing it here on the ingredients list. So I am just going to say that there's 3 here. The ordinary can be like that. Sometimes they will say it contains this. And then when you look at the ingredients list, you're like, well, I mean, technically, I guess you could get there if you kind of connected these lines. 3 different forms of hyaluronic acid at different molecular weights, which means that it can dive into the skin at different depths and kind of hydrate at deeper levels within the skin. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later in the video as well. Now the marketing. The marketing claims that the new formulation also contains ceramides, which was not in the original formula. And here's another great example of like the marketing saying ceramides, and you look in the ingredients list and there's no ceramides. However, it does contain phospholipids and sphingolipids. These are a type of lipid. Ceramide is a type of lipid, and they are technically precursors to ceramides. So you can kind of see how we can do some gymnastics to get to that point where it's like, oh yeah, it's ceramides. It's technically not. I mean, that would be like saying that an amino acid, just one singular one, is a peptide. While they make up peptides, chains of amino acids will make a peptide. Just a singular amino acid is not a peptide, right? It's a little disingenuous, but I do understand why they would use a very recognizable word like ceramide. Again, these are, marketing to people who maybe don't watch videos like this, who don't dive into skin, who don't research skincare, right? So a word ceramide, we know that that is a good ingredient for the health of your skin. It helps your moisture barrier. It helps to fight dehydration. And so that's a recognizable word where phospholipid and sphingolipid are not. But I have to point out that because it's like, what you're saying is not what I'm seeing. But however, some good lipid content in here that absolutely can help to keep your skin hydrated and kind of help tuck that hyaluronic acid into your skin and help to aid your skin's moisture barrier. Now, right there in the name, they're claiming B5, which is panthenol. Panthenol is an amazing humectant for the skin. I actually personally like panthenol way better than I like hyaluronic acid as an ingredient that deeply hydrates and plumps out my skin, but I digress. I do think it is a really nice and smart pairing with hyaluronic acid because it really does give that deep replenishment to the skin. And it's a smart addition to the lipid content in here because this is another ingredient that helps to aid your moisture barrier and the lipid layer within your skin to help hold hydration in place, and as I mentioned, kind of tuck that hyaluronic acid into your skin. So this has a runny gel-like texture. It does feel a little bit thick as you're spreading it onto your skin. It almost feels like it's going to be almost like medium weight feeling on your skin, but as it absorbs, it actually thins and lightens out and it feels a lot more breathable, and it has very good absorbency. Sometimes hyaluronic acid serums do not absorb very well into the skin. They feel like the texture sits a little bit on top. This actually is a really nice absorbency. It does take a bit of time, so you may feel like it feels a little sticky or a little thick. Give it a moment. It will settle into your skin, and once it does, you'll notice that it's not sticky, it's not tacky, it's not shiny, and it's not like coating or overwhelming or weighing down your skin. So it does actually, once it's absorbing, which is a slower process, I will admit, but once it has absorbed, it does kind of transform from that slightly thicker gel into a lighter, more breathable texture on the skin. I do believe that they have improved the tackiness of this serum in the reformulation. I will be very honest with you, it's been quite a few years since I tried the original version, but I do remember it to have quite a bit of tack on top of the skin and very slow absorbency, and this I think has been improved. Now let's talk about Mary and May Hyaluronics Serum. This contains 5 different types of hyaluronic acid, which, count them here on the ingredients list. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 forms of hyaluronic acid listed here on the ingredients. So I love the transparency between marketing and the ingredients list, but they are actually at different molecular weights. And I kind of briefly touched on this already. Hyaluronic acid, just the word hyaluronic acid, not sodium hyaluronic, not hydrolyzed. We're just talking about that pure hyaluronic acid. It's a very large molecule. It's not this big, but it's pretty big. And that molecule can, well, it's really fantastic when it's inside of your skin. Hyaluronic acid is naturally occurring within our body skin. We produce our own hyaluronic acid. When it's inside our skin and it's all big and great, that's awesome. And it does a great job deep within our skin to keep things nice and plump and hydrated. However, when we're topically applying it and we're trying to get it into our skin, that big molecule, that's not great, right? That big molecule just can't get in there. When it's pre-existing in the skin, it's okay. Pushing it into the skin is super duper hard. And so that's why hyaluronic acid often feels like it sits on top of your skin. That's why it actually can cause some skin dryness because it's not actually getting deep into the skin. And so when you have different molecular weights, what basically happens is they take that big molecule and they chop it all the way up, and then it creates these smaller molecules, right, from the one big one. They're still fairly large-ish molecules, don't get me wrong here. They're not like making it so tiny. This process can only do so much. When they chop it up, now we have these smaller but still large molecules that do actually get into the skin a little bit more efficiently. And the different molecular weights really do refer to how deeply it can go into the skin. And that's about it. You know, there's really no other star ingredients in this formulation. It's pretty easy to see that from the ingredients list, and pretty much true of the Ordinary as well. Let me touch on the texture. I do think it is a little bit looser and runnier and thinner than the Ordinary. You can see it's still a loose gel texture, but not quite as much heft and body to it. It actually has a really nice absorbency, a little bit faster than the Ordinary. As it absorbs into the skin, it feels nice and breathable, not sticky. It does feel like it gets inside of your skin, not sitting on top. I think a really elegant, pleasing texture overall that doesn't leave your skin feeling like sealed off or sticky on top. I think it's a really, really nice, very light gel texture. So this or that, and you're probably like, checking the status bar. How can you be telling me this or that already? Like, don't you have way more to say about these products? Oh yeah, trust me, I do. I know that both of these products are very, very popular. So you're probably trying to decide which one is right for you. They both have similar active ingredients. They both kind of come in at a really pleasing price point, right? They're very easy on the wallet, but I have to say, I don't particularly love these two products. What I wanted to cover about the ingredient that I think can be very helpful for lots of different folks who are watching this is my two main concerns when it comes to hyaluronic acid. And I think the biggest one I've kind of already touched on is the stickiness. You know, the ingredient itself is really hard to formulate in an elegant way. And that's been my opinion for many years. I think the first time I tried hyaluronic acid type of serum was the K-Beauty brand Cynic way back in like I want to say it was like about 2013 maybe, or like 2014. It was straight up 10 years ago. And that's when I mentioned generations, right? This is more of a first generation kind of vibe, a hyaluronic acid product, and it's just very sticky. I do think that both of these brands have done a very good job with it. I wouldn't say that they're like super luxurious or like the most amazing textural experiences I've ever had in skincare, but I was actually very pleasantly surprised. They broke some of those biases that I have about sidestepping like thick feeling, non-absorbing, sticky hyaluronic acid. I think both of these actually come out ahead of some of the competitors, definitely, that have similar formulas. But one of my bigger concerns comes with the hydrating or non-hydrating factor of these types of formulations, where hyaluronic acid is the star ingredient and one of the few ingredients in the formula. And that's because hyaluronic acid, it always comes back to the size of that molecule, as I've already discussed, right? It's very, very big, and it doesn't penetrate too deeply into the skin, so it's going to sit pretty close to the surface. And even when we chop up that molecule, as I mentioned, chopping it up still creates a large type of molecule. It's smaller than the original, but it's still pretty big. And they do dive into the skin at like different levels, but they're not really getting super deep, diving incredibly deep. And in fact, some of the really lowest molecular weight hyaluronic acid forms that are so small that do dive really meaningfully deep into the skin actually can cause inflammation in the skin. Isn't that strange? So there's so much complication with that molecule size and its ability to get into where it really needs to be. But I guess the bigger issue here is that molecule sitting kind of somewhere closer to the surface of the skin, right? When it's sitting a little bit closer there, it actually can induce a process called transepidermal water loss. And that's basically dehydration, right? The loss of water through the skin. That molecule actually draws water from deeper in the skin from the moisture barrier, pulling it out towards the surface of the skin. And it actually can evaporate off of the skin because it's being pulled from the deeper, more protective layers of your skin, and it goes out into the environment. And this can be made worse by things like a dry environment. So if you just like kind of live like maybe at like a desert or arid type of climate, you're gonna be very familiar with this feeling and with this process on the skin, right? But I find that I find an uptick in dehydration during the winter. For me, I don't live in a desert climate. I live in the upper Midwest. During the winter and during the humid summers as well, because central air, the heating is on and that dries out the air. The air conditioning on and that forced air dries out my inside environment. Now, this is the thing that you hear with hyaluronic acid all the time. And while these things are fundamentally true, I'm so sick of hearing them. It's really pretty basic stuff. And I often feel like this advice is thrown around as a way to dismiss people who struggle with this ingredient, feeling that it doesn't hydrate their skin, which by the way, I'm somebody who struggles to get deep hydration with hyaluronic acid. And so I feel a little bit like, it really touches me off when I hear this. It is make sure that that your skincare, your other layers, that your skin is damp when you put hyaluronic acid onto your skin. It's not going to effectively hydrate your skin if there's no other hydration there. So you have to make sure your skin is like damp or wet and then put it on, and it'll be so much better. Yes, I mean, it's true. Skincare does absorb better when you are applying to damp skin. Absolutely. This is true. I'm not going to argue that. But I think, again, it is sidestepping the whole issue of the environment, right? Which is the ingredient itself is just causing hydration to sit closer to your skin. The environment is going to pull the rest of that away and evaporate out into the air. Putting on like a water layer or a toner or something before this isn't really going to prevent that from happening. It can help with absorption, but it's not going to help necessarily, in my personal experience, with performance. The other piece of advice that you'll get with these types of products is, well, you got to make sure you're sealing it in, right? Because if the hydration is sitting close to your skin, it's evaporating off. You have to have a good occlusive. If you're not sealing it in, well, of course it's going to evaporate. And yes, fundamentally, at its core, this is true. You should be using some type of final layer moisturizer, a light lotion, right? Anything that just kind of like helps to just tuck all your skincare in is very important, right? But putting all of that on your moisturizer to do all of that work when we're fighting again against really dry environments, or maybe it's just the way that your skin chemistry is, it just may not be a fit for you. And so that's why I said, well, those pieces of advice are true. If you're not using moisturizer, use one. If you're not layering on something else underneath it or putting it onto dry skin, maybe switch that around and see. But it also just can be that it's just not that great of an ingredient for some folks. So I wanted to put that out there too, that like maybe you do struggle with this ingredient. It's okay. It may not be for you. What I would actually say is go check out my panthenol video, which I'm going to link on the screen right now. If you're somebody who is watching through a hoping that maybe one of these is going to solve that hydration issue that you've struggled with other hyaluronic acid products. I just want to say, I see you. You are seen. I'm not going to give you dismissive advice about how you're doing it wrong. I would just say this is not the ingredient for you, and that's okay. Go to the panthenol video. I will say, I do think that they've done a fairly good job of balancing out those two concerns that I just spent a really long time talking about why I don't like this ingredient. They have really eliminated a lot of the sticky, tacky factor with these formulations. So check. Dehydration wise, I still struggled with both of these, but not in the ways that I normally would, like in a very severe type of way. The way that I tested these out individually, of course, but I actually tested these out in my like most trusted side by side. Did Mary and May here on my left side. I did the Ordinary here on my right side. I did the same skincare routine underneath and on top, but just, you know what I mean? Just the two different serums, and the way that they perform is quite different. While they seem very similar, the performance is different. So if you're still here and you didn't run off to the panthenol video, let me tell you that Mary and May has the more elegant texture. And I was really like rooting for this one. You know what I mean? I was really thinking this was going to be the winner, but side by side, performance wise, they're very different the way they perform for hydration and holding hydration into the skin. The Ordinary performed better. And I think it's because they added the panthenol. I'm biased. Trust me. I will put that right out there. I am biased. But this actually kept my skin hydrated longer and better while still feeling a little dehydrated. This actually performed longer and better than Mary and May. My skin felt, you know, it was interesting the way that my skin felt with Mary and May. It actually felt dry inside. So dehydration feels like a tightness deep within your skin. You can be oily, you can be shiny on top, right? But it's about what's happening, the feeling deeper in your skin. And deeper within my skin, I could feel that tightness, like please put a hydrating toner on me, get something down in there to just give that sensation deeper into my skin. But my skin actually felt thinner on this side too. Maybe that's due to the thinness of the texture or the lack of the additional humectants in Mary and May. But I like just in the side by side, I remember doing this like all afternoon long when I did the side by side. I was like, this side just feels thinner. Am I making this up? No, it does. It just feels thinner. The Ordinary side, oh wow, really surprised at how much more firm my skin felt. A lot of people choose hyaluronic acid not necessarily for the hydrating content, but for its ability to kind of plump out the skin. When you plump out the skin, it actually makes your skin look firmer, lifted, smooth, and it can help with the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. And so that's definitely the effect I was getting from the Ordinary. I was getting that firming effect. My skin felt thicker in a good way, plumper, and I think that it had more of like a lifted kind of a feel. These are subtle differences that you can really only tell when you do a side by side, but it really performed a lot better in that category. And as I've already mentioned, the additional humectants in here, panthenol, really did help the hydration last longer for me. So, as I mentioned, the more elegant texture is Mary and May, but I think the better performance, plumping, firming, smoothing, kind of tenting out fine lines and wrinkles, holding a little bit more hydration in place. My clear winner is the reformulated The Ordinary Hyaluronic Acid Plus B5 Serum. So hopefully this was helpful to you if you were thinking about these two different products or you wanted to learn a little bit more about hyaluronic acid. I hope that I dished out all the tea for you today. And of course, I am curious to know if you've tried any of these products or maybe you have some other favorite hyaluronic acid focused products. Let us all know, because I always say this is a community of people and we're all here to help each other out. So drop all your recommendations, all your thoughts in the comments below. And if this video helped you decide between these two products, if it's right for you, but you haven't hit subscribe yet, please come join this very helpful community, especially if you love deep diving into ingredients, you love K-beauty products, you love sensitive skincare. That's what my channel is all about. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you're never out of the loop. I hope you are healthy, happy, and safe wherever you are in the world. I love you so much. Thanks for being here with me today, and thanks for making 33 episodes of This or That possible. I can't do it without you, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.